art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creativity. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing more than mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join our conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist and learn about their inspiration while we all enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to Season 2 of Art Talk with John Cole Artist. Because I have the microphone muted, I think you can hear me now. There's always a little thing that I forget to do. Hey, everybody, it's John Cole. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I've got author and TEDx speaker Mark de Cordoba on with me. And if you remember, he was on a little while ago before we really got involved with taking the stage. So tonight I thought it would be fun to have Mark on. And what we want to talk a little bit about tonight is how that process went. How did we do? You know, did it give us goosebumps or did we just freak out and run off the stage? That's really the whole goal. And by the way, today's the 21st of May for those folks that are watching the replay. So Mark, how you doing tonight?
Well, hello, John. Thanks for having me on. It was fun. Our last show together many weeks ago, I think now.
It was,
and I'm sure we were also finishing some other big project or collaboration at that time, huh?
Yeah, we kind of were, and you'll see in the right-hand corner of the screen for those with video. We'll talk about that, touch on that a little bit later if you want. But yeah, first of all, Christine's on. We know Christine. She says, hello, beautiful souls.
Hello, Christine.
So yeah, we both had the opportunity to take a trip down to Atlanta, you from Colorado and me from Massachusetts, to probably do one of the biggest speech platforms that there are, right?
I heard that, yes. You know, TED itself is kind of the headliner act, if you will, but I understand that TEDx, as far as its reach, and if you go online and look up TEDx speeches, you will see an incredible number of names you've never heard of from around the world, where the sites and locations, you know, from Iceland to the Philippines or what have you. So I think it is very broadly distributed, as you said, John. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's what really makes TED and TEDx specifically, because like you said, it's got a broader scope. And there's more followers. I think when I last heard Allison Roberts, who we both work with or are working with for this program, said earlier today that she estimates right around 41 million subscribers to TEDx. So that's visible.
Yeah.
You know. So Christine says, congratulations on your TEDx and your book.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk more in depth about those. And yeah, I think, and to John as well for having done exactly the same things, just a little ahead of me.
Yeah, just slightly. Yeah, we're all staggered a little bit, and there's a good reason for doing that. And it really gives us all the opportunity to shine, and that's really the important part. Because to me, you know, the books and the speech itself really highlight our stories. They're all different, but let's talk a little bit about your story now. Well, actually, you want to back up. Let's talk about the process a little bit. How does one get on the TEDx stage? Could we talk about that?
Yeah, I'm guessing there's several ways, but as far as we know, we were maybe one step removed, or I was one step removed for sure, which meant that we went through what we might call our program organizer, and that, Allison, meant that she had to coordinate with an event organizer, I think representing the TEDx, you know, organization. Right. And, you know, you were saying earlier, what was it? 41 million subscribers or something.
Yeah.
If I had known there were that many, I never would have signed up. I think it was much more comfortable when we first heard about this to know that you're on a small stage in a smaller venue, which, yes, you know, like everywhere else now can be streamed around the world. But in our case, this didn't come about as a stream. There's Allison popping in. Hello. Mm-hmm. This is actually something where it's what would you call it? Record on delay, where
right.
We have a chance later to be seen, depending on, you know, all the approvals and and authentications for our videos. But yeah, so I think just going into this idea of being on the stage was certainly like a dream, an attractive like idea, but
Mhm.
once you actually start thinking it through and knowing the preparation it's going to take, and it's a very accelerated process as well, particularly at the front end where we had to have things ready.
Yeah, and Allison says, "You both were amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that." Yeah, you know what? I thought about that a little bit, Mark. Because that's come up a couple times when I, mentioned the fact that I was writing a book and that I was going to be taking the stage. And some have said that maybe that wasn't enough time, but I'll be honest with you. I think, well, it clearly was enough time because not only did I think there was 12 of us all together, eight. I think there was seven or eight that wrote books, and then there was some extra folks that joined us on the stage. Um, Yeah, people have said, "Well, that's not enough time because it's only 6 months." We started in January. I mean, in January, Mark, we really had nothing.
No,
Maybe
no.
we had an idea, and with me specific oh, there was 8. Allison says 8. Um, but the thing is we did it, and 6 months really is more than enough time because, what you're basically doing with this, folks, for both sides is you're really writing your story, and one of the easiest things you can do is write about yourself,
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's not to say that right out the gate, everything was perfect because in my particular case, and I think in your particular case too, you had some last minute adjustments, you know?
Yes, we'll get to that part for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely achievable. 6 months is more than enough time. You're writing your own story and yeah, it can feel a little overwhelming sometimes. But to be honest with you, having that support, not only from Allison, but from Laura Lindsay, the editor, in my opinion, really helped us, get through any resistance we might have been having. And really, the end result has just been amazing. So if there's any naysayers that say, "Well, it can't be done," well, it can be done. And not only that, but so far we've had 3 people, myself, um, and Anna Davis last week, and then Angelique Benet this week. All 3 of us with the program have put our books out, and all 3 of us have spoke on the TEDx with you, and all 3 of us have already hit #1 in Amazon. So it
Yes.
can be done, people.
Incredible, and
Yeah.
congratulations.
So
Yeah, I think as I go back to how did I pick the story,
mhm,
we had another stage appearance last year in Atlanta, and that was my first, I would just say, memorized stage speech, where where I had to uh, bring the story in fully into my head and be able to tell that story, completely ready for the audience there. Now, that was a very difficult story. I even reflected a little bit on it here last week
mhm,
in the TEDx. But I think for me, my topic, well, I wanted it to be more lighthearted, a little different. Like, let's not churn back through the same memories, for my next speech. And that was really the one I went with, John, which was back kind of a story back in college that I had the opportunity to do my first overseas trip and study program. It was still very hard to find the so what message for the people, for the audience, and that's perhaps why there in my book has the word pivot in it. I had to do a last minute pivot as well with the speech, thinking what really would this audience best appreciate and take home,
right,
and also I think to come in a little bit more with maybe the emotional messages, the vulnerability that was on stage, on show, for a lot of people who were telling a very tough story of their own.
right.
So I did, in fact, change that, and with Allison and Laura, we talked it over as my coaches, but also had to really kind of dig deep to find out what's the next stage of my speech that would be relevant, and it was actually kind of brought everything full circle to today, which made it a little easier. Like you said, the story in your head, you've lived it, so maybe that makes it a little easier to memorize.
Yeah. Memorizing is a challenge, and I say that because this, of course, was my first TEDx, and I was on stage last year with you, and then the previous year was the first year that I had to, take something and active ACTIVA. I spelled it right. I thought I spelled activating wrong. So it really was the third time, and in all three times, I had the speech in my brain perfectly by the time I stepped on that stage. But what's really interesting is it's different when you're actually doing it, and for me, there was a couple spots where I kind of had to either take a second or fill in because rote memorization is tricky, and I'll admit I'm not the best person for memorizing anything. I did terrible in spelling class during school. I remember that. I just was horrible with spelling. So to memorize anything was tough. But the good thing about it, like you said, is we know our stories. So in my particular case, although a line might not have gone as planned, I think I got the message across in that particular spot. Of course, I won't know until the TEDx gets put up, only because I have no idea what I said during that moment.
I think we all go through that fog.
Yeah.
John, you and I had a chance to practice quite a bit last year as we were doing our first Atlanta speeches there. Well, actually, I think you had done one before that. And I found it very impressive how comfortable, in fact, how you pushed yourself to memorize it early and actually throw your notes away, so to speak, or at least push them to the side. And we would do exactly this, or the two of us are on screen, do a Zoom call.
Yep.
And John was always way ahead of me. And that at first gave me kind of the shivers, like, oh, I hope I can get to where John is within the next 4 to 6 weeks. And like you said, we did. I was going to talk a little bit about some of the devices we use in the sense of memorization devices. There's a few different ways to do it. One is you're going to write out your speech. Most of us will do that on the computer, and then print out the speech, then look at it, record the speech so that you hear it in your own voice in your ears as you go and do just about anything around the house or take a walk. You can put it in your car. And then the other one that I use, and I have some examples here, is I use these cards, these index cards.
Right.
And you can see what I tried to do was just put some sort of, there we go, a little visual cue for me. So, I start off with my original speech with, I packed my bag. So I have a little crudely drawn piece of luggage there. And then I tried to essentially use those as sequences so that if I should forget a sentence or a paragraph even, I would kind of know where I need to hop to for my next one. The hearing, the reading, the speaking, and any other ways that we can kind of make this visual and audio was very important to at least on that speech in particular to get ready. That was the original speech I wrote between February and May.
So the one that you presented, the one that you had to write quickly, how many weeks before, how much time did you have to write that before you presented it?
I had about 7 days. 7 days. Now, I would say the saving grace for me was it was a bringing up to date of my prior story. So it dealt with essentially the last 6 months, maybe 7. And some key things that had happened on my in my work life, in my personal life, family life, etc. And there were some tough things. I mean, things that everybody goes through, and sometimes they all get stacked up at once. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, it was actually easier for me to memorize, even with the short time span, than to go back and memorize the 6 pages and exactly 14 minutes and 30 seconds of the speech that I had written before. So I just felt like if I could write it as an outline, I could fill it in as I go. And I think that pretty well worked
Well, I think it worked swimmingly, I think is the word. I mean, you stood up there and it was excellent. I mean, was there any parts in there that you had trouble with, or you know what I mean? Or did you just basically go with what you had written over that 7 days?
Well, I think so. I think the conclusions that I wrote were not all organized as well as I would have wanted, right? Like point one, point two, three, four,
Right.
five would have been probably a better way. I think I just made them like quick bullet points. But there was one that I did like, which was at the end. I left four, think I called them takeaways. We sometimes call them, lessons or what's it, self-help
Yep.
type section. And the way I memorized that was incredibly simple. I just used the letter S as the start of each word. So I figured if I could memorize four words that began with S and just talk them out a little bit, that would be something I could leave the audience. So yeah, it came kind of right to the wire, but I was able to get those all in.
Yeah, I think your technique definitely worked because when you can tell when someone just straight up memorizes something. It's very mechanical,
Mm,
very robotic. I know when I was, you know, memorizing or rehearsing my speech, my ultimate goal always was that the lines that I wrote, I stick with as much as possible, but that when I speak them, it doesn't sound like that. And that takes a lot of repetition, right? Because the more you say something, the more it becomes natural to say it, even if I mean, it's like if you were to become an actor,
hmm
right? You want to give your lines such that the audience believes that you're actually feeling and saying the words, even though they might have been written by somebody else, right? So that's kind of how I wanted. That's kind of where I wanted to be. I'm hoping I was successful. I think I had fun doing it.
Yes.
Despite a hiccup or two standing up there, it felt kind of natural in a weird sort of way. I don't know about you. How
Yeah,
did you feel?
John, I wanted to mention for those who have not yet seen John's speech here or last year, what he is so good at, what you're so good at, John, is taking us on an adventure.
Hmm,
You mean the whole? I remember you starting your campfire story last year,
right.
and just jumping into. And so, would you like to come with me on this adventure? And that was a great technique, which seemed very comfortable for you. And this year, you also sort of took us on an adventure into the deep into the west, the west of the United States, the national parks, and so on. And I like that. And in fact, one other thing, and I think this is really important for the speakers, we're going to have different levels of energy, different volumes, different pace, but it is great. John kind of started the whole thing with a lot of energy, and I think that really pulled the crowd in. So just want to let you know that. I'm not sure if you had a question for me that I might have skipped over, but I did
Well,
I did enjoy the way you faced in or kind of leaned into your intro.
well, thank you. Yeah, and really my question was, when you were up there, um, how did you feel? Did you feel comfortable up there? Was it intimidating for you? I mean, knowing, of course, that just having the idea that you're going to do that can feel
Yeah,
overwhelming right in the moment. But
I
once you got up there, how
I
did it?
think we can answer that with a picture that you showed earlier. You had number one on your three.
Yeah,
This
let
will
me
help. This will help the crowd understand. All of you
yeah,
in the audience
let me
will
hide
relate.
this temporarily and let's
Okay,
go ahead and
we
add
have
in.
we have to do some
There
visuals
we
here. Okay, so this is me the morning of beautiful sunny day, and I've got both my printed speech and my cards. And mostly what I was trying to do was get away from the speech itself because it was just line after line, but really go to the cards using either the first line or the picture. And I got to a point where hopefully most people didn't even have to do anything on the morning of except breathe. But for me, it just felt good to just do one more little stroll through the cards. So I took some time to do my index cards. When I actually was introduced, we were getting mic'd up person by person. So you'd kind of have a person on deck, and what do they call the other one that comes after after that in the baseball terminology? Someone at bat, someone on deck, and so when that was happening, I was actually really eager, and I think as the days went by, there was this mix of the stress of saying don't mess up, but also the joy I was saying, I really want to give this speech. I really want this to be of value to people. I hope that I can turn this into some simple lessons that anyone could use no matter what journey they've been on. And similarly for my last year's speech. And at that point, I was getting excited being in Atlanta. So it was kind of a mix that gradually started going to the excitement of taking the stage. And that made me feel much better when I got up there, John.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, here's the man himself.
Yeah. And just for, for any authorities looking and seeing that I'm cheating and have some notes with me there. Those are actually, that was a prop that I used. I wasn't reading off of them. I used it as a prop that I could then, okay, I'll just give for those of you who haven't seen, and many of you haven't, this was just a way that I could kind of introduce the old speech that I was going to give, and then slowly, sadly crumple each page and push them off to the side. So yeah. It was just a prop. But you're right. That was, and I think others on this who are watching here have all heard us talk, who were at the event. You are blinded. You can even see there's multiple lights hidden, multiple shadows. It was bright. And at best, you might see someone's elbow, or you might see a foot out in the audience, but you really can't get that feedback. And I'm not sure if that was a good or bad thing for me. It might have been just like a practice in a sense. You're just looking at the light. But it was nice the previous year to be able to see faces, see how the emotion of my story was resonating, feeling that support and that cheer from the audience, or seeing the tears. That was all something we kind of traded off here for this one. And I don't know how you felt about maybe your experience interacting with the audience from before, John.
Yeah, first of all, just so folks know, we did this in a movie theater. It was the Movie Studio Grill. Is that right? Studio
Grill or something.
Yeah, in Marietta, Georgia. Personally, I like the venue. I like the idea of having, the raised seats. I like the fact that it was very insulated. It wasn't super expansive. It felt very intimate, and I really like that idea. Yeah, there is some value, I think, to being able to see the audience reactions as you speak. On the other hand, if you do run into trouble areas like I've done in previous years, not being able to see the faces sometimes can be helpful, because it allows you to regroup quicker, or at least continue on. And who this happened to, and I would love to have her on to talk about TEDx as well as Laura, because Laura, who's the editor for the book, did a TEDx this year, and her speech was amazing. But what really got me was what she said after the fact, and that is, she started her speech off strong, right to the point, and at some point she said, well, before I get to this, let me go back and tell you about this. That's because at some point she skipped a section, and yet she had the wherewithal, the presence of mind, to take herself back. You know what I mean? And she did that. It was amazing the way she did that. So impressed with that.
Yes.
But to answer the question, I think there's benefits to both. I think, since this is a TEDx talk, and, they probably using some high def equipment, and the lights against the dark background, there's probably, a technical reason why they had to have that level of lighting. And it makes sense, right? You don't want your reel to look like you're standing in the haze or something like that. Oh yeah, and Michelle writes, this is a good point with TEDx as well. She writes, and the red dot on the stage. That was another thing, right, Mark? We had to stay within the red dot.
Yeah. And I spent so much time on just getting my sentences right, getting my themes and my ideas out, that I didn't spend probably enough time with gestures and pivots and all the things you might do on the stage. So I'll be eager to see how that went. But as far as standing on the red carpet there, as you can see, that wasn't a problem. I decided I would be more of an anchor and not be roaming around.
Right.
But I think for some people, they actually actively had to be thinking about that. Like, don't go past the edge. You need to be where the cameras can pick you up.
Right, exactly. And that's the whole point of the red dot, right? To stay there so that the lights are focused on you and the cameras. Because I think we had two cameras. I don't think either of them were either controlled by an operator. I think they were static cameras. So
Mm,
Then, of
okay.
course, the last picture we have here is some of my favorite people in the world right here.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we included the whole
Yeah,
group today because you can see all these people did amazing work, either in the coaching and organizing, or the delivery of their speeches. And I think we have just about everyone. I think we were missing just one of the speakers, Dion.
yeah, but just an amazing group. I think everybody did a phenomenal job. I could not have been more impressed with the quality of the speeches, the subject matter of the speeches. I think everything was right where they needed to be. And again, I have to thank Allison and all her support for this because without her, there's no way either one of us, I think, and I won't speak for you, but maybe I can speak for you. I'm not quite confident either one of us would have gone out of our way, you know what I mean, to step on a TEDx stage because it does feel overwhelming. But with her coaching and her support, we were able to do it. You know,
Yeah.
and what an amazing thing.
And if you're looking for Allison there, she's the one whose head is under the V for victory.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. So, but yeah,
Good, good to share that.
let me see. Let me put the brand. Let's talk about. Let me find you. Where did I put you? Is this you? Yep, there you are. So TEDx, right? Well, let me ask you this last question relative to TEDx because I want to talk about your book, which is going to be released in here. Very important question for you, Mark. And think about this for a moment. Would you do it again?
I would do the process again. I would absolutely want to, and Allison knows this too. I would actually split the timing a little bit. We had so much overlapping deadlines, and particularly very early in the year. And as I mentioned in the speech, I was thankfully on sabbatical during this time from work, so I did not need to also juggle that with work, which I think would have been impressive and impossible for me right now. But yes, and and I don't think I had that. I couldn't have answered that 5 days ago, 7 days ago, John,
Yeah.
regarding the speech. It would have been like, what have I signed up for? Am I crazy? But yes, having done that and that it went well and that I didn't stumble like we've all thought we probably stumbled worse than we did when we've lost a word or a sentence. I think yeah, absolutely. And just like you're showing here, I never expected to see my name, either on the big screen or as you showed on earlier with the TEDx shot or on the bottom of a book. But absolutely, for getting the support, the steps, the follow the process, trust in the process were words that I lived by. And knowing that you have so much more in you than you think you do,
Yeah.
this was really a proving ground.
Yeah, and it's really good when you have a support team that sees that in you, even when you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing thing. And just so you know, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Good.
I actually really enjoyed it. So, all right, let's talk a little bit because we're pushing already the 30-minute mark, but I'm happy to go a little longer because I really want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about your book. So, first question is, when are we going to be able to read this?
Well, as far as I am informed, we are looking at a June 11th launch.
Okay.
And so it's coming soon. And I still have some behind the scenes work to do, not so much on the book itself, but just more on the promotional aspects of it. We do have a cover that you can see there. And so we're giving some folks a sneak preview today. I won't have you zoom in, but I'll just explain that it's called Pivoting into Balance. And therefore, I wanted to write about my long career and the struggles we all go through with finding balance in our work life, personal life, our career development, in our relationships with others and so forth, and just blending all those together and making it work. And so the subtitle actually has to do with the art of reflection to create equilibrium, personal equilibrium. My approach was not, there's many TEDx speeches, by the way, that I looked at a few of them about work-life balance. Some will say, is it a myth? Others will say it's achievable, but you have to do it this way. Others will say, I'm the authority on it. In my case, I just wanted to do a personal story. But what I did change and make this maybe more unique is it's called Activating the Art of Reflection, which is a way of doing very interactive exercises with the reader, so that you read a story and then you come back to that story in themes and use question and answer to really, in a sense, it's kind of stimulating journaling, which for me has been a wonderful technique to start really using. I mean, not just hearing about it, but actually activating it and using it. And so there's several prompts after each chapter to talk about, I don't know, maybe it's your first travel job and you're away from your home and your family, and how did you cope with that? Right. Or another example might be that you were in a toxic situation and you needed to leave, but you were a bit trapped and you need to go through several steps to get to the next job. And there were trade-offs between leaving the comfortable job and going to the maybe explicitly it's less comfortable, but internally it might be something that just going to feel right to you. So any of those stories we all have about entering new jobs, working at a workplace of any kind. The whole pandemic was mixed in there too, which moved me from very much an in-person workplace, even a mandated in-person workplace, to either a full-time remote or sort of that hybrid that I think a lot of companies are trying to get right, and they're probably struggling with it, which is maybe 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, something similar to that. So any one of those phases of my career, but then what did it mean for personal life? What did it mean for my family? How about the travel? I was a traveling consultant for many years. And how did I work through that? And how can you ask some questions to sort of activate, accelerate some thinking about how that could change for you, maybe towards more balance.
Right. Well, it sounds like a lot of people are going to see themselves in that. A lot of the things you just mentioned, I can see myself in. So I'm anxious to see it. And I have no doubt that's going to be a bestseller as well.
Well, I'm gonna go with your flow there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's extremely important, not only to share your story, but talk about balance in general, because I think that is I don't want to say it's a controversial subject, but I can understand why there would be differing perspectives on it. Because I think with everything else, everything is subjective. However, if you can give folks a new way of seeing something, or maybe fill in some gaps that they might be struggling with, if even from a personal anecdote or something like that, it goes a big way to allowing people to change. And really that's what it's all about, is changing for the better. So
yeah. And I would just add one more thing, which is, I don't think we ever find perfect balance and then we're set. And there's always the waves, there's always the boat rocking, and we have to continually shift our weight and find new balance as circumstances come up. So this will be tips and practical ideas, but you'll continually sort of reevaluate things as you go.
Yeah. I think it's all about making decisions, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Very good, John.
Yeah. So, well, amazing. Well, congratulations on the TEDx. Again, you did an amazing job, and I'm really looking forward to, once TEDx is done with its review process, watching it. Even though I was there, I want to see it again. It was that good. And also congratulations on the upcoming book. Cover design, the graphic person did a great job on that. I remember I saw an earlier iteration. I think it was during TEDx, and I think I had commented that it reminded me of a 1970s science fiction novel. This, however, is much better. I think that if I remember correctly, you wanted him to shift the person over a little bit and kind of make it look like he's teetering a little bit. So I think he did a really great job she did a really great job on the cover. And I think that's going to directly reflect what it is that you wrote about. So everything's lining up perfectly for you, Mark.
Just follow the rope there.
Follow the rope. Yep, right. Walk into the light, Mark. Walk into the light. But anyway,
thank you, John.
Pleasure having you on, and hopefully, you'll be on again with me. Maybe once the book comes out, you'll join me again and we can
I would
talk
love
about.
to.
Maybe you can do part of a reading from the book. I think would be really cool as well. But
Yeah, I'd love to come back for that.
awesome.
Thank you for the publicity and just the opportunity to share the stories today.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. So next week, folks, I'm not exactly sure who I've got on the show, but if I don't have anybody, I can guarantee you there will be a show. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank everyone for joining me. And thank you again for those folks that are watching it on one of the podcast platforms. I really value your support. And as long as I keep having fun doing this, I'm going to keep on doing it. And at this point, I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. So see ya, everybody, next week. See you, Mark.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.